Chapter 572, 3 Dowry Gifts. This chapter is updated by novels.pl. In everybody's eyes, Zhang Yuochen's strength and ability were around the same level as Bu Qianfan's. Zhang Yuochen should not be so complacent as to take on Bu Qianfan without weapons. He would be greatly disadvantaged. Boom! Zhang Yuochen's finger sword collided with Bu Qianfan's the palm knife, making a deafening clanking sound as if two 5,000 kilograms metal pieces had crashed together. Crack! The jade stone floor they were standing on shattered. Thousands of closely spaced cracks appeared. From afar, one could see that both Zhang Yuochen and Bu Qianfan were not carrying any sword or knife. However, dozens of sword and knife shadows were visible. More amazingly, streams of golden light were emitting from two of Zhang Yuochen's fingers. The golden light began to spread from his finger to the rest of his body. In the next instant, Zhang Yuochen's entire body turned golden. He looked as if he were a gold statue of a deity. Second change in the fish-dragon realm. Skin refining to gold. This astonished even Bu Qianfan. How did Zhang Yuochen reach the second change in the fish-dragon realm so soon after breaking through the fish-dragon realm? In a flash, Zhang Yuochen wielded the finger sword once again and attacked Bu Qianfan's chest. Bu Qianfan responded quickly, his palm coming in contact with Zhang Yuochen's fingertips as he blocked the blow. Boom! Although his palm was protected by a glove, Bu Qianfan still felt a force penetrating and spreading from his palm. His right arm became completely numb. He was sent 10 meters backward as he lost control of his body. Bu Qianfan slowly raised his palm and painfully closed his fist. He said in a deep voice, "I did not know that your level of cultivation has already reached the second change in the fish-dragon realm. You are indeed improving at a remarkable speed." The sword chi around Zhang Yuochen gradually dispersed until it was completely gone. "Do you still want to continue?" asked Zhang Yuochen. Bu Qianfan shook his head and said, "There is no need to continue. You are indeed capable and strong, but I am not giving up yet." He glanced at the 10 carriages filled with dowry and bridal gifts. He gently shook his head and said, "Are you offering a mere 10 carriages of bridal gifts and dowry in order to take Miss Yanjun as your wife? How miserly of you. Bring it out." Rumble. A group of carriages sped toward them from afar. The procession of carriages was 30 miles long, all drawn by large brute elephants. They were filled with gifts and dowry. The entire procession consisted of 5,000 men and 1,200 carriages. Moments later, the 1,200 brute elephants, 1,200 carriages and 5,000 family generals of Saint Bugentry stopped behind Bu Qianfan. The brute elephants were also known as war behemoths. The strength of one brute elephant was comparable to that of the weakest Heaven Realm warrior. The 1,200 brute elephants pulling the carriages were like 1,200 Heaven Realm warriors. Their imposing manner was rather frightening. Only the highly influential Saint Bugentry of the Ministry of War was able to mobilize 1,200 brute elephants at once to form the elephant-drawn carriage procession. This was definitely a rare sight. Everyone was taken aback by how generous Bu Qianfan was, and how Zhang Yuochen's gifts paled in comparison. Bu Qianfan issued a command. "Open them." The family generals of Saint Bugentry immediately got down from the brute elephants and opened all the boxes in the carriages. Light blazed from the boxes as streaks of spiritual chi came flooding out. There were 600 carriages full of common spiritual crystals, 300 carriages full of medium-grade spiritual crystals, 200 carriages full of good-grade spiritual crystals, and 100 carriages full of top-grade spiritual crystals. It was rare to see so many spiritual crystals even in the presence of a half-saint. Their warriors of younger generations were almost blinded by these 1,200 carriages full of bright spiritual crystals. What was the most important thing in the cultivation circle? It was definitely spiritual crystals. With spiritual crystals, a warrior would be able to afford the manuals for top-level exercises, high-class pills, and weapons. He could even afford to buy a city, servants, and war pets. A family possessing spiritual crystals would be able to nurture many masters, thereby strengthening its power. Bu Qianfan looked at Huang Yanchen and said with a clear voice, "Miss Yanchen, these are the gifts I am offering. 600 million common spiritual crystals, 300 million medium spiritual crystals, 200 million good-grade spiritual crystals, and 100 million top-grade spiritual crystals. A total of 1.236 billion pieces of spiritual crystals. It was an astronomical figure that shocked the warriors of the younger generation. Bukion Fan, being an excellent young man himself, coupled with the extravagant gifts he brought, would have easily succeeded in asking for the hand of any god's favored daughter of the Jins. What's more, he was merely asking for the hand of a foreign woman from the Chen family. Chen Ji, the branch head of Huang Yanjin's family, was astonished at the sight of 1,200 carriages of spiritual crystals. If not for the fact that Huang Yanjin was already engaged to Zhang Yuochen, he would have betrothed Huang Yanjin to Bukion Fan. All the young women of the Chen family became excited and began to look coquettishly at Bukion Fan as if they were all ready to throw themselves at him. Talented, handsome and rich, even a man with just one of these qualities would attract the attention of many women. What's more, Bukion Fan possessed all these qualities. Unfortunately, Bukion Fan only had eyes for Huang Yanjin, and he could not be bothered with the others. Apart from Zhu Hongtao and Wonk, who were unshaken, the rest of the servants escorting Zhang Yuochen hung their head in shame. Cayenne's Yui Commandery Prince and half-Saint Liu Lai, the parents of Huang Yanjin, looked embarrassed as well. Everyone felt that Bukion Fan's intention was to humiliate Zhang Yuochen. All of the gifts in the 10 carriages were carefully and personally hand-picked by concubine Lin. They were by no means stingy. Unfortunately, they paled in comparison with Bukion Fan's gifts. Even if Zhang Yuochen eventually married Huang Yanjin, today's event would probably be reported in the Eastern Region Report and circulated throughout the Eastern Region. Most people would think that Zhang Yuochen was stingy and would feel sorry for Huang Yanjin. Could she enjoy a blissful life if she married such a stingy man? A materialistic woman would give up Zhang Yuochen for Bukion Fan. However, Huang Yanjin just rolled her eyes at Bukion Fan like he was some kind of a moron. Zhang Yuochen had no desire for comparison. However, when he saw the look on Huang Yanjin's parents, he went forward and said, "Master, eldest brother apprentice and elder brother apprentice Chang, please bring me the 3 special dowry gifts." Lei Jing, Si Xingkong and Chang Kiki each took down a jade box from the back of the ember kiln, carrying it cautiously in their hands, and walked to Zhang Yuochen's side. Chang Kiki looked at Bukion Fan and provocatively said, "Who says only 1,200 carriages of spiritual crystals are valuable? My junior fellow apprentice is low-key, unlike someone who obnoxiously flaunts his wealth. That's really vulgar." Si Xingkong said, "The 10 carriages of gifts were prepared by old madame for her future daughter-in-law, while these 3 gifts were prepared by junior fellow apprentice Zhang." Bukion Fan appeared unperturbed. He touched his nose and curiously looked at the 3 jade boxes, saying, "Really? Let me see what gifts Zhang Yuochen prepared. Could they be more valuable than my 1.236 billion spiritual crystals?" Naturally, everyone did not think Zhang Yuochen's gifts would match up to Bukion Fan's spiritual crystals. After all, Zhang Yuochen was a mere prince of an inferior commandery. Despite being a disciple of Sword Saint Xuanji, his net worth was still far from that of Saint Bu gentry. Even if he were to use up all the financial resources of an inferior commandery, would he be able to produce 1 million spiritual crystals? Zhang Yuochen took the jade box from Chang Kiki first and then opened it slowly while the crowd looked on. Swoosh! A dazzling black light radiated out of the box. A cloud of concentrated spiritual chi of water nature diffused and humidified the surrounding air. The water particles in the air converged toward Zhang Yuochen, forming a bubble within which it started to drizzle. That's an origin treasure of water nature. A young warrior from the Jins could not help exclaiming. Zhang Yuochen glanced at the man and nodded, saying, "That's right, this black glazed spine is indeed a water-natured origin treasure. It weighs 333 kati, and it represents my unchanging and everlasting relationship with senior sister apprentice Yanjin." Boom! Everyone was clearly astonished. Although some of them may have seen an origin treasure of water nature before, they would not have seen so many all at once. Refining the 9 kati and 9 tils of black glazed spinel had enabled Zhang Yuochen to practice and attain the treasured body of water spirit. The black glazed spinel that Zhang Yuochen brought would enable the Chuns to nurture dozens of treasured bodies within a short period of time. One could imagine how formidable it would be for a family to be able to nurture dozens of treasured bodies into maturity within a generation. As Chen Jie looked at the black glazed spinel in the jade box, his initial feeling of indifference turned into excitement. His clan was the weakest within the Chen family just because they nurtured very few geniuses. Their best masters could not measure up to those who were from the other clans. Getting hold of hundreds of katis of black glazed spinel would allow his clan to nurture dozens of treasured bodies immediately. At this pace, his clan would become one of the strongest in the Chen family within a few decades. All the young warriors of the Chen family started to get really excited. Since the black glazed spinel was part of Zhang Yuochen's dowry, it would become a treasure belonging to the Chuns. Would it be possible for them to get a share of it? Cayenne's Yui Commandery Prince and half-Saint Liu Lai looked at each other and smiled knowingly, breathing a sigh of relief. Zhang Yuochen had not disappointed them. He prevailed over Bukionfan's provocation and resolved this hiccup single-handedly. By revealing the valuable treasure in just one of the jade boxes, it was obvious that Zhang Yuochen's gifts were far more superior than the 1,200 carriages of spiritual crystals presented by Bukionfan. What magnificent treasures would the 2 remaining jade boxes hold? The crowd could not wait to find out. The Chen family's young descendants were a rather arrogant bunch. Even so, all of them craned their necks to see what was inside the 2 jade boxes. Zhang Yuochen did not disappoint them. He hurriedly walked up to Seek Singkong and took the second jade box. Opening it slowly,